Hi, Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the A.D.K channel, and today we're doing discussion topics. So, for those that have not seen a discussion topic, the simple way we'll do it is I will read out the topic. We will each get 1 minute to plan our topics of how we want to discuss it, and then we will get 2 minutes to share our thoughts with each other, and then we'll get a little bit of chance to wrap up at the end with any kind of closing statements, and then we'll ask you in the comments down below to share your opinions on what we've discussed. So today's discussion topic, it's not as controversial as the last one we just did. Has the festival season become too big? In the 90s, it used to be that there was Monsters of Rock, Sonosphere, Reading, and maybe a couple of others. And that used to be during the summer primarily. Now the festival season seems to start as early as late March and goes on through till early October, with festivals almost every single weekend. Discuss. Your 1 minute to plan starts now. Okay, pencils down. Your test. Hand in your tests. Right. I'm going to ask Andy, you can go first in. 2 minutes starts now.
Remind me what the question was again.
Are there too many festivals?
Is the festival season too long? Is that what it was?
Too many festivals and it goes on for too long.
Right, okay. Yeah, in your sort of intro, you mentioned the big ones, and if you was to say any of those, everybody would know where those festivals were taking place, the sort of bands that were on there, because they were sort of big events. Now it seems that every all day or every sort of weekend, two-day event at any sort of venue around the country is classed as a festival.
Yeah,
which is not a bad thing, because it creates a brand. You can mock up a T-shirt. You can do plan another one for next year. So I think it's not a criticism to say that they're too long or there's too many of them, because it's promoting music. I mean, I've never been one to go to the big festivals. I've never been to Bloodstock or Download. Probably the biggest one I've been to is Sonosphere in Stevenage in 2014. In Hertfordshire, which was awesome. There's some really big bands there, Iron Maiden, Metallica. And I've been to some smaller festivals around the country over the last few years, and they've been great. You go for probably some bands that you're drawn to and fans of, and you discover so much more. So, in answer to the question, I think, let's have a festival season as long as it needs to be, and have as many festivals as people can put on.
Okay. Kirk, your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, let me give you an example. In April, there's a festival in London called the Prognosis Festival, and Voivod are headlining it, are one of my favourite bands, and I won't be going to it. I've just found out about it. It clashes with Metal to the Masses, and I think it's a lifestyle thing. If you've got children, childcare arrangements, if you're going to a metal festival for a weekend, you've got to be planning that months in advance. Money is also an issue. So the reason I won't go to that is because I also need to do 7 reviews a week and a YouTube video for Screen Blast Repeat. I just don't have enough time to plan for it. I am going to the Radar Festival in Manchester in July, headlined by Periphery, Sleep Token, Monuments, Loathe, Haken, etc. But I think there is an abundance of them. There's nothing wrong with having an abundance of quality, but I just couldn't, even if I wanted to go to all of them, I couldn't. I agree. I think, Dave, what you're hinting at is it used to be there were two things in the calendar. Would that be Download and Sonosphere, or Download and Bloodstock? The last big festival I went to was Brutal Assault in the Czech Republic in 2019, and that was a who's who of extreme metal. You know, you had everyone from Anthrax through to Meshuggah and cattle decapitation. Fantastic 3-day weekend, but takes a lot out of you. So what I would say is, yeah, it depends where your lifestyle is and what commitments you've got and responsibilities. But if you've got to choose from 12 absolutely fantastic lineups, 12 festivals, are you going to go to all 12 of them? Good luck to you if you've got the money to do that.
Okay. My turn to go on this. So, I think there is way too many. And the reason I say this is because you mentioned their Periphery, Sleep Token at a festival. I've never even heard of that festival, but there you go. There's another festival. Before these festivals existed, you either got on the bill at one of the big festivals or you put on a tour and you went round and you played the smaller venues, and smaller bands got a chance to be your support bands. That doesn't exist anymore. So during the festival season, people are either going to pick to go to one of these big festivals, spend the 50, 60, 70 pounds plus the food costs, travel costs, etc. to go to it. And that money is then not being used to go see local bands and check out local gigs, because you've only got a certain amount of money to see live venues. And this is what I think is a big problem. Every venue, whether it's Castlefest at Luton's Castle, which puts on, yes, it's great. You then get to see all these bands on one night. But what you're then doing is that's your big event to go and watch bands, which means you're then spending all your money there and you're not getting a chance to see supporting bands just playing local gigs. And that's where my biggest challenge is. When you used to have just the big festivals and a couple of the smaller size festivals like Arctangent Festival and stuff like that, people would still, throughout the rest of the year, they were like, well, you've got 2 months of festivals. The rest of the year, they're going to see local bands at local gigs. That doesn't happen anymore. Once the festival season kicks in, people stop going to the local gigs unless it's like their local friends, because their money is tied up to go and watch the big festivals. And these big bands should be doing it via tours and not being on the festival stages, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah. Can I come back to you on that then?
Yeah, open to debate now.
It's the comments we want, isn't it, from people? So first of all, I don't make that economic rational calculation. If I go to watch Voivod at this festival, I'm depriving a local band. Clearly, I'm going to go and watch a band on a lineup with a showcase of 5 or 6 big names. So I'm not going to feel guilty about that. That's what I'm saying. The other thing is, though, you're right, though. Touring is now the lifeblood for most musicians, isn't it? Because people don't buy CDs. The physical unit sales are just not there anymore. So they can sell the merch. They can probably play to the biggest crowd of the year if they're on a festival. You're right, though. You look at some of your favorite international bands, they'll tour the world, and then you look at the UK dates, and it'll just be 2 festivals. They're not doing a tour of England, are they? Like Periphery, I think they've announced one other show in Manchester as a warm-up for this. So they're calling it a world tour, and there are not UK dates. They're playing festivals here in the UK. So, yeah, I understand the frustration that comes with that. The abundance is an issue, isn't it? I mean, hey, I think it's a good thing to some extent, though, that whole idea of the American golden ticket, a bit like we saw with the controversial European Super League with football. It was clearly the American razzmatazz and the clubs that were involved, most of them are American-owned, and they just wanted this headline poster where Man United are playing Real Madrid every other week and Bayern Munich play Liverpool. With the festivals, we're probably going that way now, aren't we? I mean, look at that fucking Hellfest. Did you see the lineup last year? It had basically every legend of rock and metal all playing over 3 days. It was an incredible lineup, but if you go to that, you don't need to go to any of the festival. So that
you probably couldn't afford to go to any other festival after.
Exactly. That. Yeah, and that probably just takes away any urge to go to any of the festivals, because you probably would have seen them all in that bill. But yeah, sorry for on pace there, but
I think it's right.
Interesting what you said, Dave.
I also think if you go back to the 90s to places like Club 85, during the week it would be original acts playing. Now it's all tributes and cover bands.
Yeah, it's
very frequent. Well, occasionally you might get an original artist, but generally you're seeing all these Oasis covers tribute bands, and that's what's filling out venues. And that in the 90s, that was all original acts. Now people don't spend the money to go there because, I mean, if I was going to one of the big festivals, and I never go to the big festivals because it's just too much, I would much rather go and watch a local live band. And to be honest, I want to go home and go to my own bed in the evening, to be quite honest. I don't want to sleep in a camper van or a tent or something like that. But yeah, Andy, any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, just I sort of like Kirk's point about the fact that the bands that come over to England or the UK don't do a tour, as you said, that they'll put themselves on a couple of festivals. And if you're a big fan, you know, you'd be quite disappointed if your only opportunity to see a band is to buy a day ticket or a weekend ticket to a big festival when you could pay a reasonable price at a venue close to you on a gig on their tour of the UK. So I kind of get that. I mean, your points, Dave, were kind of, there's too many of them and then you can't possibly go to all of them. Well, if you've got the choice, because there's so many of different, you know, magnitudes, you know, throughout the country and throughout the year, you've got that choice of where you go and what you see. You know, it could be an all-dayer at the Red Lion Stage, for example, which have got local bands and bands from outside the area coming in and playing all day. That counts as a festival. Or you've got the 4 or 5 day massive ones that have got the, you know, the sort of big bands coming over.
Market and Hellfest, yeah.
I mean, it's like I just saw one that came up.
It's somebody, an organisation or a company or a venue putting on live music. And that's what I want to see. It's giving people more choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's too much choice. If you want to be here one weekend, you can't be here the following weekend because of, you know, you mentioned childcare, Kirk. Yeah, that's a big factor. Money's a big factor. Your own personal time is a big factor because you could invest so much of all of those in seeing and appreciating and enjoying, you know, your favourite bands playing live.
Yeah, Dave, we prefer to have too much choice than no choice. Imagine if you live in Mongolia, right, and there's only one festival a year, probably the Who headlining, and you might get a couple of big Western names passing through. That's the only festival you'd be able to see, isn't it? So here, it's a first world problem we're discussing. Are we complaining that there's too much choice? I think we are, aren't we? And we need to take a step back and be grateful that at least we have the choice in this extended festival season, however saturated it may feel. And like we just said there, you know, if your favourite band, you've got to pay a festival ticket to see them and you don't like anyone else on the lineup, it's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So we've got some differences of opinions on this particular topic. So we'd like to know what your comments are or your opinions in the comments down below. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care.